Hello, I think I'm live. There we go. Hello everyone, thank you for joining me this morning. Let's get my camera set up for you. So we're going to be doing this lovely sloth here. And just while everybody is logging in, I've got my paints all ready. So this is what I've got here, just so that you can see. Okay, so I've got burnt umber, I've got alizarin crimson, I've got Prussian blue, you can also use ultramarine blue, I have burnt sienna ready, I have white, and I have black should I need it. So these are the colours that you need to be preparing if you haven't already prepared. And I'll leave that on the screen while you make a note of the colours that you need. The other things that you will need are a fan brush, an 8 or a 10 round brush, which wants to roll, so I'll put it there, and a rigger brush. So thank you again. Hello, anybody joining me today? Thank you for joining me. And this is my studio. So for those of you who have stumbled on me by accident because you like Sloth, my name is Mary Deaville, and I've been teaching art to different groups and to I'm not sure what I'm saying. Sorry, I'll start again. So I've been teaching for the last 8 years to the art-based group at Ross-on-Wye Baptist Church. I've also had individual one-to-one lessons in my studio here in Ross-on-Wye. I recently moved studios, but I'm all set up, thankfully, so that I'm at home and I don't have to physically travel out to work. So you can come and join me in my studio and have a lesson as well in these troubling times. So first of all, I prepare myself. Okay, so in these times I suffer with depression, and I find looking at the news, I'm compelled to watch the news, but it makes me feel sad, as it should do. But as a creative person, it also makes me feel emotionally sad, and I can't cope with it. So, to help my depression, I like to do something creative every day. So, here today we're going to be painting a sloth. I thought it was a good thing because kids can enjoy it too, as well as adults. This tuition is for all ages and all abilities, and hopefully we're all going to enjoy this because it's all about what you're doing and the feeling that you feel, which is hopefully enjoyment, than what you produce at the end. And you may absolutely adore what you have at the end, but you're more likely to enjoy what you've got at the end of your painting if you're enjoying the process of doing it. So again, hello if you're joining me. I'll move the paints to one side now. I'll try and remember to tell you which paints I'm using each time. So this is what I'm painting here. I'd like to be able to paint it so that you can see it that way up, but that's to the side of me. So I'm going to just turn the camera to make it easier for me. Bear with as we do this new technology. I'm amazed I've got this far. So anybody's been watching my journey of trying to learn this technology to bring it to you this morning, this is amazing. So I'm just going to move the camera around. Hopefully it won't get in my way. Make sure it's got a sloth in the picture. Ooh, that works too. So I'd rather have this sloth here because this is where I'm working. Okay, so let's get going. Actually, before we get going, if you checked in the comments, you should see how to prepare yourself for all of this. So if you've prepared in advance a drawing or a tracing, you can follow along now. Otherwise, you should be able to watch this at a later date, which means that you can pause it and rewind, and you can stop on a point where you wanted to see that technique again, which is really, really helpful. And you can paint it at a later date. But I would like to see a photo of your work, just so that I can give you some comments if you want to receive them, or just for the fun of it, because I love sloths and so does my daughter. Okay, so looking at our sloth drawing, we have a background of green around the sloth. He's in the forest, obviously. He's hanging down with the trees, from the trees, and you can see his lovely little claws. Okay, so I am going to mix up. Oh, I also need a yellow. I haven't got the yellow out. Let's get a yellow out. And sap green. So I can mix my own greens with yellow and blue. And I can also mix my greens from actual greens that I'm using. So let's see, what have I got? As you can see, I'm still getting ready with all of this. Right, I'm back with you. Apologies. I have a green earth, which I can use. I have a leaf green, which is very similar to sap green. And I have my cadmium yellow, which I'm going to mix up with my Prussian blue to make some nice greens. Now, when you take a picture on your camera, the background is always blurry. And that's what we want to create with this effect that I'm trying to teach you. So if I get my paints out, the extra green, well, that is quite a vibrant green. And where's the earth green? So there you can see I've added it to my palette, just across here. So this is the cadmium yellow. This is the leaf green, which is extremely vibrant. I wouldn't expect my sap green to be that vibrant. And this is the earth green, which is quite a nice natural green. Let's go over these colours a hit on the side again. So this is black, white, burnt sienna, Prussian blue, alizarin crimson, and burnt umber. So this is my mixing palette. So if I take my round brush, dip it in some water, I'm going to wet my paper. This is like wetting wet. Even though we're using acrylics, we can still use some of the techniques for wetting wet for watercolour. So I'm going up to the edge of my line around my sloth. And if I just do that bit first, then I'm going to just dab in some of my earth green. If I mix up a little bit of my yellow and Prussian blue, more Prussian blue. Okay, I'm going to add that green in there. Don't worry if you can still see a bit of blue and a bit of yellow in the mix. It all adds to the blurriness of the texture. So I'm just going to add that in, and I'm going to add a little bit more yellow. I just want to create a blurred image for a background, because I can paint this just as a sloth with no background, but I do have a lot of people who say afterwards, what do I do with the background? So I do try and paint my backgrounds first, because I always paint from the furthest away. What do I paint first, people say? If it's sky is the furthest away, if you have sky in your painting, you paint the sky. Then you come forward to mountains and hills. Anything that is furthest away in distance from you is what you paint first. And then everything that's in the distance is always more bluey and more pale, and more blurred, no detail. And everything that's in the foreground has lots of detail, bright vivid colours, and I've just gone over a bit of my tree, so I've got a bit of kitchen roll here, and I could just wipe that down to make that sharp line. Okay, so that's a little bit more blurred, and it has lots of texture. So can you see I'm just dabbing my brush, and can you see those textures that I'm leaving within the water? Okay, let's put a little bit more of the yellow in up here, make it nice and even. Okay, so this is the sloth's arm, and this is the tree. We want some more detail around here. So if I move the palette across a little bit, I'm again going to add in a bit of water. Try not to go over the tree at the moment. So just go either side of the tree. Hello if you're joining us. We are hanging around. We're hanging in there with all this isolation. So again, it looks like I'm painting with green paint because that's what I have on my brush, but this is just water. I just want a wet in wet technique so that I can dot in my colours. Again, let's just dot them in. You can turn your brush around in different ways. I don't want to have any specific tree or foliage showing. I just want the same technique and the same paints all the way around. And as I say, I'm going up to and on the edge of my pencil marks, so that when I paint the sloth and the tree bark, trunks, branches, they will appear over the top, which means that they will make you feel that they're further in front of you than the background that we're painting. Okay, so we're 3/4 of the way around with the background. Let's do this area up here. So again, a bit of water in between. This is the sloth's arm, so be very careful not to paint that in green. And let's just put this in here. Now again, when I was painting the orangutan the other day, I didn't mask my paper down, and I have put in the comments to have masking tape, and that is to tape your paper down, and also I'm going to show you a technique on how to do the branches. But again, I have not done it, so I'm sure I will make lots of errors. I'm going to hold my sloth down on the paper. Oh, I'm going to tickle him. My sloth is very slow at laughing. And as you can tell, I have a bad sense of humour, as most people who know me will tell you. I actually quite like this texture that the brushes bring into my paint. Now I can't see any comments from anybody, which is fine, but if somebody did put a comment on, there is a delay of about 20-30 seconds before I could see a comment, in which case I won't be able to answer it straight away, but feel free to ask me anything to repeat. But then if you're watching this on my YouTube channel or on Facebook Live after it's been recorded, you'll be able to rewind it, as I said earlier. Okay, so we've got a nice technique going on here. I don't like, now looking back at my background, I don't like what I did in the first place. So because this is acrylic, I can go over this. So I'm just going to re-wet it and use the same. So I've gone into my earth green. As you paint, you realise you try something, it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. You can chalk it up to experience, and we learn together. Okay, it's still a little bit dark, but I'm okay with that. I can always adjust it later. So I might just put a little bit of Prussian blue and the earth green together, and give a few dark bits around to give the impression of shadows in the foliage behind. And if I put it on that side, I've got to have to put some on this side as well. Just try and make it look all uniform. Okay, so I've done my technique, my background. I'm now cleaning my brush. That's the noise you can hear. So I clean my brush and I wipe it on my little cloth. I've got these little aprons made by this lovely lady, Janet, from Country Market in Ross on Wye, and you can take these off, which are probably better to do. Let's stand up, I can show you the apron. Yay! Funky buttons, load of butterflies, and then there's my little flannel, which you'll find that's what I'm using to dry my brush on. Right. So while that's drying, I hope you get a chance to catch up. Looking at the sloth picture, we have this nice brown fur. Now this fur we're going to create with the fan brush or the hake. Say me, right, to in one stroke for every line of fur. I will use the fan brush, which will give more fur, which we used in the orangutan as well. So if you watched that, you should have had a little bit of practice with that. If you don't have a fan, don't worry about it. You can just splay your brush. It does not so as effective, but you could splay your brush so you can separate the filaments. Or you can use a hake if you have one, which is, it's got, I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Let's bring it up closer to the camera. So it's got cuts out in the middle, so you still have the extra lines that you make from those filaments as opposed to the fan. Okay, so I think because it's acrylic, we can carry on. If it was watercolour, we'd have to wait for a long time or make sure that it's completely dry. So, what would I like to do first? I want to do, as I said before, the things that are further away. So the sloth is behind these bits of branch. Therefore, I paint the sloth first. We will probably go over his claws. This is a three-toed sloth. You can get two-toed sloths after we've done the branches. But let's just get a feel of what we want to do. So, I must stop saying so. I'm going to have to learn on this. I have my fan brush. I have my burnt sienna, and I'm just going to make a little bit of a wash. I'm going to add a little bit of white so it's a little bit lighter. If I move this along, you can see how I'm mixing my paint, which is probably more helpful to you. So I've added a little bit of burnt sienna and a little bit of white, and looking where the fur is. I just want this as a background, so when we paint our fur we won't have white in the background, we'll have this lovely warm colour behind it. Okay, again, a bit like wet in wet, we're just putting that colour in. You can use it with a fan, or I'm struggling just to do this little bit with the fan. So you can go back to your round brush if you want to, but I'm going to carry on with my fan. So I'm just painting through. Because it's a wash, so it's more water to paint, you can still see your pencil marks, which is great. Let's put some, and you can see the greens, but we'll be using thicker paint to go over that green later. Now I'm missing a line on my drawing because this area around here is more white. So you can always adjust these things as you go along. So this is going to be a little bit darker. But I still want to have the background coming through. And if you look at the reference photo, here we've got lots of grey, but there's still a little bit of this light gingery burnt sienna colour. So that's what's going to come through. And my brush is starting to become a dry brush effect because it's not blending like this. You can see the strokes. That's okay, and exactly what I want actually. So I'm filling the Sloth's colour up, but I'm also putting his strokes in there. And we'll come up here. Dip into my colour again, I think. And then we can start seeing the colour of the Sloth against where the branches are. Don't forget, missed it down here. Okay, so we've got a background base for our Sloth. Okay, so I want to mix up a grey, so I'm going to use my round brush, and there's two greys I can mix up. Let's bring my paints further in. So the first grey I'm going to pick up is a little bit of black and a bit of white, which is quite common. It makes a nice grey, but it makes a very flat grey. Just make a little bit more of that up so that I've got it available in a thicker paint. This is a wash, there's lots of fluid. This is a lot of fluid, but you can see it's more opaque because there's more paint to it as well. So that's made up there. And then that other grey I'm going to make makes a more interesting colour. Stops your painting looking flat. And I'm going to use the Prussian blue, which you can also use an ultramarine blue. This is a much brighter blue, and Sloths are in tropical lands, so therefore things get a lot more warmer with their climate. So I've added a little bit of alizarin crimson. You can see this nice purple creating. I'm going to mix up a bit more of it because, again, I don't want it wishy-washy. I want a solid colour. So I mix up the purpley colour first, adding the right mixture so it's not too blue, which it is at the moment, and not too red. If I do that on purpose, here we go. Not too red, add more blue into it. See, you can just keep adding the correct colour until you get what you're looking for. Now, if I add a little bit of white to this one now, this will tone it down. I could have added water, but I don't want to lose a loose white. So can you see the grey here? It's much more warmer, more pleasant grey than this grey here. So I've got my paints mixed up. So clean my round brush again. Always keep your brushes clean. Don't leave your brushes in your water while you're not using them, because it will rest on the tip of your brush. And if you do that, after a while they bend and then you have lost that point to your brush. So look after your brushes. Please don't leave them in the water. Probably when you want to use them next time. So let's give you an example. Let's put this grey onto, move this across a bit, bring our sloth back into view. So you can see the strokes. This is the flat grey. Again, it's a little bit too wet, so you can't actually see the grey, see the strokes. But I quite like it. Again, the painting will evolve. I quite like it because it's showing through the burnt sienna underneath. So I don't want my sloth to look uneven. So even though I'm not doing exactly what I plan to do, I'm going to make sure that my sloth, where it has grey bits, has a bit of that grey in there. So it will look nice and even. You see the way that the fan brush is creating a bit of texture. Okay, and here is going to be really, really dark. So let's go into the other grey and put that over the top. Again, you can see I'm just doing that little flick. I start off on the edge of his paw, arm, whatever you want to call it. And I'm putting my little flicks in. Let's put a few more up here. And look here. See that technique coming into play. And then across here. Always look at your reference photo at the direction that the fur is going, and that helps one to form the 3D appearance, but also helps you to paint it correctly. Okay, I'm going to have to do some thicker paint in a minute. So I'm going to clean my brush again, and I think I will have less of the water this time. Slowly building up our sloth. So let's go in with a little bit, no water. I've got a damp brush that I've now dried all the moisture off of. We've got a little bit of the burnt sienna, and I think I'm going to put a little bit of the white on it as well. Can you see I've put burnt sienna and a bit of white on that side, and on this part I'm going to put a little bit of the alizarin crimson. So not only do you have a wide brush with the fan brush, but you can also put different colours along the brush so that you get more texture. So this one, where I'm looking at the top of his head, I want to paint in the direction of the fur. So I could paint from the back down, or I could paint from here upwards and push to the outside. I think I'm going to do that first and just see how that affects it. So I'm just tapping my brush down and going out. Can you see those colours moulding in together and giving us, let's put a little bit more of the burnt sienna in. And here, don't be afraid of putting the odd stray bits of fur over the top of your green. Right, so here the colour is coming down and into the curve here. And then if I pick up a little bit of the burnt umber and the burnt sienna together, this is darker down here. So in its shadow, I'm going to put my dark bit here. Don't worry if it doesn't look exactly as you want it to at the moment. It's a work in progress and you'll correct things as you go. Back into the burnt umber and the burnt sienna, because I want this to be quite dark here. Let's bring this up round here. I still want to see the fur strokes. Each time you put a fur stroke over the top, it will add to the effect. You don't want to just have one or two lines, you want lots. Okay. So I'm going to put in a little, while I put it on my brush, I'm just going to put a little bit of the darkness up here as well. Oh, I like that. Okay, so it's a little bit darker down here too, in between, but it's more grey. So I'm adding that in just to have that colour in there, and then I'm going to add a little bit more of the grey. So I'm going to use, mix up a bit of black and a bit of white. I'm going to add in a little bit of the alizarin crimson to that grey and a little bit of Prussian blue. Let's see what that does. Okay, oh, that's nice. So I'm going to bring that down, but it needs a little bit of the burnt sienna coming in as well. So don't be frightened of mixing it on the paper. So, and then the fur comes down. A little bit of white to make it a bit lighter. You can see the fur coming along. And again with the burnt sienna and a bit of the white. Let's tone the burnt sienna down to a nice paleness here that we've got. So looking at the reference photo again, adding the colours as I see fit. Now you can see the fur effect appearing. So again, I'll remind you that this is just a very, very damp brush, but we're going straight into solid paint. We're not mixing it with water, and you're getting that fur technique. So I quite like that technique. And we're done for that arm. While I've got my fan brush in this area, I'm going to put in this bit of fur here, changing the colour, and I can make this look a little bit better from this angle. Okay, sloth's coming! Yay! You can also push with your brush to get that texture, and if you lose it, you can put it back in. Just like that. Okay, I like that. I do like that lots. Just get rid of that bit of white. You can see here the fur of the sloth is right above it. Now, just as a fun fact, let's have a look and see what things we can learn about the sloth as we paint it. Thank you for joining us again. Okay, so it takes two. One of the first facts I've found is there are two types of sloth, a two-toed and a three-toed. However, this can get very confusing as both types have 3 claws, or toes, as they say, on their hind limbs. So in reality, it could be called a two-fingered sloth, and the difference between them both can be found on their front limbs. So their front limbs, this one's a three-toed sloth. You can't see, this is the front finger, and that one's the front finger, which you can't see up there. So this is a three-toed sloth because I've got 3 claws here on the forelimbs Whereas if I only did 2, you can only do 2 if you want to, have a 2-toed sloth, that's it. So that's one fact as we're painting the sloth. Okay, let's go back to this colour here, and add, now I'm looking at the reference photo again, I think it could be a little bit whiter, so I'm just going into my white, just to go over that, to lighten that down. There we go, still like that. And then back here, let's go back and do the same technique here. So we've got a grey, just with the solid paint. That's not showing too much texture, so I'm going to dip into my white, dip into my burnt sienna, dip into the blue, just see what colours come up. Oh, I like that. Just adds a little bit of interest to the colours. So just burnt sienna and white at the top here, and let's give him a little bit of fur coming over that limb. There we go. Now we can bring, as we go across, we can lift our brush over the branch and then carry that fur along. And again, this is in the shadow, this is a bit darker, so we can add a little bit of the burnt umber as we're going, just to darken it in that area. But we still want to see the fur. There we go. And this is, across this area here is the bottom of his underarm. Starts to take shape. We want to have this arm looking like it's part of this body, so I'm bringing a little bit of that brown, grey into that brown. Okay, so now we can do across the tummy. So I'm going to put that grey in there first. As you can see, there is still a little bit of this warm burnt sienna wash going on there. And I've just put paint on my arm. Wonderful, I'm painting my own sloth on my arm. We can't all stay clean and tidy when we're painting. In fact, it's much more fun if we don't. Okay, so let's carry on with our fan brush. I'm dipping into the burnt sienna and a bit of the white, putting these fur across. I can see the fur is going in this direction, which makes a difference from the arm. So again, when you get to the tree branch, you lift up and you carry on going across. I like that colour. Let's see a little bit more of our photo, because we're coming to the other limbs. And this is all part of the sloth. Again, this is going across here. You can see how that's building in to look like the same part of the body. And again, down here, we need a little bit more of the grey. And add more white to the grey, because this is quite light here. And just bring that so that it looks like it's in front of the body, which of course it is, because it's its back leg. Add a bit more white to my grey. I think I'm going to add a little bit more of the Prussian blue, make it a slightly different colour. Still want that to show a little bit lighter. So again, my fan brush is giving me the textures that I want. Let's go back just into that white. Over the top of that grey. And yes, we are bringing in the sloth. Hope you're still hanging in there. Let's nearly an hour gone past now, but hope you're still hanging in with me. Add some white onto here. And now I'm going to clean my brush. Oh, I missed here. So I still can't see any comments from anybody, so I apologise if you are making comments. I will answer them all later. Okay, so our sloth is coming along. I'm going to go away from the fan brush for a minute, and I'm going to just wash it. And I'll go to a rigger brush. So just while we wash our brushes, I'll give you another fun fact from my 10 facts of sloths. Okay, so number 2 is Big Brother. The modern sloth is usually around the size of a medium-sized dog, but ancient sloths of years ago, known as Megatherium, could grow as large as an Asian elephant. These giant sloths sometimes featured areas of small bone disc that would act as an armor plating for protection. They became extinct around 10,000 years ago. So the big brother of the sloths of our day were a giant sloth as a Megatherium. Wow, didn't know that. Did you know that? I have my rigger brush. Now, a little bit more about the rigger brush. Okay, so this one's a Rosemary & Co. Shiraz digger. I love the Shiraz range from Rosemary & Co. I just feel it's beautiful. So, as you can see, it's got quite a long lot of filaments and hairs in the brush, okay? If I went for a small round, then it would have half that length. Now the reason for the long length is so that it can hold more paint. So you don't want to just dip the little bit at the tip into the paint, because you'll run out of paint very, very quickly. You want to coat the whole brush, so twiddle it as you put it into your paint. So first things first, I want to wet my brush. Now the Shiraz has a bit of sable in, so it takes a little bit longer for it to hold the fluid. Otherwise it starts to repel it. So I've now you can see there's a nice point to the edge of my tip of my brush, and it's moist. You can see if I move my hand around, you can see the moisture on my hand. Okay, but it's no longer a dry brush. So let's go back to our sloth. If I go into my white and just twist my brush, you just see it in the corner of the screen here. Twist my brush into the white, then I can put actually fine lines coming down. Now again, I can see a little bit of dry brush technique, so that means I didn't put my brush in the water long enough. I don't want a sopping wet brush, but I do want to have a moist brush, and if necessary, add a little bit of water to your paint so you get a fluid wash on your brush. And as you twist it, you make sure that you lose any bobbles on the end of your brush. And watch out for bits of water like that hanging off the edge of your brush too. So now you can add to all the fur that you've done with just extra little bits of lines. Now it would have taken me absolutely ages to paint the whole sloth fur with a rigger brush. So it just adds the extra detail. And again, you can change your colour, and you can bring this fur. You can see I'm doing a circular action above the paper, and then I just lower the brush down and try and flick up at the end to get a nice point of the fur. So over here, I think I want to do this brown bit here first. So to give the texture, I've cleaned my brush. I'm going into the darker brown, the burnt umber, and a little bit of the grey that I mixed up. And let's just put some texture in here in the darkness. Add a bit more of the dark brown so it shows. There we go. And just fill this up with a little bit of texture. Just to give that area of the sloth a little bit more body. You can come up round past the side of the mouth. Again, more paint. You just bring in that fur around. Starting to take shape now. I want to get rid of this light bit that's showing through in the background. I know we had it there to show through, but it also adds warmth and depth. If I can see that white, it makes my sloth look see-through. And this is definitely in the shadow area. So you can see I'm just adding texture into this area of my sloth under here into the shadow. And there's lots of wispy lines here going off in different areas because he's quite shaggy. So this is where you can go on to your other areas. So this is coming down here and just go off in different angles. Just to bring in the feeling that it's all, each part of the body is connected. Bring out a little bit more. Hope you're still hanging in there with me. Add in a different colour. It's like knitting with a paintbrush. You're adding extra colours in. Looking all the time at the reference photo to see where there might be little lines going off in different directions to add that fur. Oh, it's very I'm finding this very therapeutic painting a dizzy sloth. Okay, let's bring some more fur around this area. Again, this is all thick paint. It starts to make it look more realistic. Let's mix a little bit of burnt sienna up with white and just give it a little bit of scope outward. Trying to get that rusty effect. I think I'm going to mix a bit of burnt sienna with the cadmium yellow, and that might give me more of a gingery effect, which is what I'm looking for rather than the white. That's much better. That's it. Add that around in different places to your sloth. There we go, and that's a beautiful colour. Just bringing those fur lines in. It's starting to take shape. Put a bit of white here because I want to make the difference between the furry arm at the back and the top of the head. So just by putting a little bit of white there should make that difference, and then I'll put a few more bits of the grey back in to add the fur. Now you can see the difference between the two. Adding back into the brown, making that a bit darker here, joining the body to the arm. I like that difference there. Okay. So we can start doing this area of the sloth's mouth. We've got a nice grey. So let's put this in first because there's fur over the top of it. So we're going to put the lighter grey in first, just to paint it in, like that. Now this is very, very dark here, so I'm going to go into the black. And paint in this. Now I don't like using straight black. I think it's more of a, it's got a bluey tone to it. So I'm going to mix a bit of the Prussian blue and the black. And just add a little bit of colour to that. There we go, that's a bit better. You might not be able to see the difference, but I can. But I'm just adding that extra bit of blue. It's a bit like having Payne's Grey. Payne's Grey's got a bit of a bluey shade to it. So if you've got Payne's Grey, don't feel that you have to use the colours that I'm using. You can even make a psychedelic sloth. Okay, let's bring in a little bit of shadow here. Fill that in. And bring that lighter shade up here too. You can bring the fur from that part of the nose. Let's just add a little bit of a white shine to that bit. Now, let's make this nice and grey across here. So what I want to do is bring in the shape of the mouth. So to clean my brush, I just want the black for this one. And don't just do a straight line. Think about the shape of the mouth that you're going to do. So I want to smile. This one's not that smiley very much, but I want a smiley sloth. So I'm going to bring my smile from this area here. I'm going to bring it down. And just give it a curl off the end. Now we have our smiley sloth, but that's come out more grey because the paint's wet. So I'm just going to go over that again with the black. Can you see our smiley sloth? He's coming to life. Yes. And just build the nose back around. so. Then I'm going to add in a little bit of white, which will turn grey, to highlight where his nostrils, where the light hits his nostrils. Now, he hasn't really showed that side because it's in the dark, but that's okay. I'm just going to make the nostrils. If I put a lighter bit up here, that brings the 3D-ness. To make anything 3D, you have 3 tones. You have a light tone, a mid-tone, and a dark tone. And then if you put them in the right places, it helps it to look 3D. So let's put a bit of fur going on around here, and bring that muzzle. And then we've got a bit of a creamness going down the bottom here, and white over the top here with a bit of cream, but there's a little bit of grey here. Put that in. And to mix up the cream, you use your cadmium yellow. Oops, a bit of water in there. You mix up your cadmium yellow and a bit of your white, and you get a nice cream. Now if you've got Naples yellow, this is also a nice way of making a cream. It's a lighter yellow in the first place, but that's okay. So this makes a Naples yellow by adding white to the cadmium. So let's see how that affects our picture by putting this fur, this creamy fur. Again, I'm just using brush strokes to make it look like fur. I can add a little bit more white if I want to. Not too much though, because this is also in the distant. Not in the distant, it's in shadow. So I can add a little bit of the brown again in a minute. Like so, just add a little bit of that brown while it's wet to make that into the shadow. You can still see the cream, but you can also keep putting the cream back over the top as well. Hello, Sloth. I hope your paintings are going well. You can revisit this at any stage. Really love you to make a comment below. Maybe like it. When I record it later, if you look on YouTube, I have a YouTube channel that I've started called Mary Deaville Artist. You might be watching on the YouTube channel now. You see that nice fur effect coming around there. Okay, so I want another little bit of this cream fur at the top, but I think I want more white. So I've run out of my white in my paint palette, so I'm just going to put a little bit more out. I think I'll put it over here so it's not contaminated. Don't need that much more. Okay, so I'm into my white. Got a good bit of cream on, and I'm going to go around the eyes. Try and do it so you can see what I'm doing. So although this is white paper, I'm now doing this cream light paint over the top. He's got this wispiness around his eyes too, so we need to add a little bit of colour of what's coming through that. I think that's going to be the grey, if I'm right. Put a little bit more of the grey in there. Maybe add a little bit more of that grey up here. You see all these individual hairs. There's a bit of highlight here where the light is hitting his fur, so Again, you can put a bit of grey up here. Now I've got some grey in there. I'm going to add a little bit more of the white, I think. Let's bring this white over the top of the cream. Hey, I like it. My sloth is smiling at me, and he's smiling at you. I really hope you're enjoying what you're doing, because I really think it helps doing a little bit of everyday creativity to help with your mental health and well-being. We all need that. So while I've got white on my brush, I'm going to add a little bit more detail down here. Can you see how fine that line is? The Rigger is just a beautiful brush to get that effect. And this is where we can add a few furs that go over the green, and it helps it make it look like it's in front of the background by allowing the fur to go over the green. If you put white on there and you don't like it like I've just done, I just added a little bit of burnt sienna again, just going over those marks, just adding extra little bits of detail as you go along. You can build it up. That's the good thing about acrylics, you can go over and over it, and the more you go over it with fur textures, the more he starts to come to life. So let's do this bit here again, add a little bit of this ginger and white, and I think I want to add a little bit dark black in this area before I put my ginger and white over the top. There we go. Just to make the difference, show the difference where the fur of that arm is. Adding to the white. There we go. Oh, I love my sloth. Do you want another fun fact? Let's have a look then. So the third one that I come across is natural camouflage. It's that little bit there, and it says the sloths possess a symbiotic relationship with the algae that grows on their fur. While the sloth provides the algae with shelter and water, as the sloth fur is highly absorbent, the algae provide the sloth with camouflage, as well as extra nutrients to their skin. Well, I read somewhere earlier that it said that the sloth is so slow that it can grow algae on it because it's just so slow. And that tells you why it grows the algae as well, to help give it nutrients and to feed the algae. I do like this. I can't wait to put his eyes in too. So, but I'm going to carry on with the fur. So I'm going to put a little bit more of this fur down here. It's more of a grey fur here. And it's not got that much detail in this area, so don't worry too much. But just put some of the individual furs there that makes it look like. There we go. Again, look at that. fine lines of the rigger, creating that fur, adding in a bit more of the colour from other areas of the sloth. And we'll be putting the tree branches in after that. Let's go back over here, add some more of the white in this area. Ah, lovely. I've got a very fluffy sloth coming. Have you? Oh, I think he's lovely. Okay, let's carry on that effect around here. It's a little bit more in the blurriness around there, so don't do too much, but it just needs to make it look like it's part of the same arm and not a different disconnected piece of limb. So what you do on one side, you do on the other side, but this bit's lighter because the sunlight is hitting that, whereas this is in the shadow. Okay, let's do a little bit of that on his tummy. Oh, very nice, furry sloth coming. A bit more grey down here. Nice, go a bit blue. Let's put that blue in other places, just to add interest. There we go. Let's bring our picture back in view for what we're painting. And we were trying to put this fur in so it looks like it's all part of the same animal. Now there's a little bit here which is a darkness, which is a shadow between his stomach fur and his hind legs. So we're going to put a little bit of brown of the burnt umber just here, just to show that shadow bit and that separation. I think I put it in there as well for a branch shadow. Okay, now around here we want to put much more of the white lines of this long fur. What's going on? There we go. Oh, I love myself. Okay, so the reason I called this hang in there is quite obvious to loads of people, because at this time, no matter when you're watching this video, we are in isolation because of the COVID virus, and my sloth is hanging in a tree. And the fun fact I'm reading next says hanging around as a title, and it says the impressive biology of a sloth allows it to spend 90% of its life hanging upside down. Studies show that this is made possible because their organs are attached to their rib cage. I didn't know that. Which means they don't weigh down on the lungs. This means that, unlike us, a sloth can hang upside down with no effect on its breathing. Oh, I wish I was a sloth. So, coming back to painting of our sloth, I'm liking all of this whiteness here. So, carry on individual bits of fur. Remember to keep it into a curve to allow us to paint something that our brains and anybody looking will see as a form of a shape. If it's just flat, straight lines, you won't see that shape going in. And add in a bit of the other colours. Beautiful. How's yours coming along, eh? You finished? Or are you still working with me? Now, if you've got a nice cup of tea or coffee, please try and keep your brushes out of your coffee mugs. Just in your water pots. You see how adding that colour into all these areas helps to make the realism that this is all part of the same animal. Let's add some fur up here. I need to wet my brush again to get that effect. There we go. And back into the grey. Yay! Sloth. And again, don't want to ignore this part of the fur here as well. So we've got a little bit more of the grey going on to separate the stomach fur. So this is the arm, the back hind leg. And the colours you use on both sides. A little bit more of the red here. And just make sure the stomach fur comes down like that. Okay. Now this bit here is actually part of the sloth's body. Let's move the paint out the way a little bit. This is where the sloth's body ends, but it's in lots of shadow, so that's fine. A little bit clearer. Yeah, and I've lost the fact that this is going in front of this, so let's put that back in. Okay. Hello, sloth. Okay, does anybody know what a sloth eats? The facts say he eats a green diet. It says a sloth's diet consists mainly of buds, leaves and tender shoots. Although some sloths have been known to eat insects and birds to supplement their diet. Then they have a multi-compartment stomach that allows them to efficiently digest the tough cellulose that they eat. This proves to be a slow process, taking 30 days to digest one leaf. Wow! Now, I don't know if you know, but cows also have more than one stomach, so that they can actually eat the green grass and digest it properly. So it has to be redigested and so on. So that's another fun fact. Let's get back to our sloth here. I think I'm going to paint in the eyes last. So I'm going to put in my branches. Now, I asked you for masking tape. And the other reason for masking tape is to show you a little bit of a technique. So if you peel off your masking tape, you have to really make sure that this is dry. So peel off your masking tape and slowly rip it. down its centre. This gives a jagged edge, which you can then use to create your tree trunks. So if I stick one bit to the table so that I don't make it stick on itself, it's very fiddly, but don't worry. I'm going to put gently down here. I'm not going to press it down because I don't want it to take off my paint. But can you see I'm just creating the tree branch. I'll go a little bit into my fur. Okay, now to do that, this is also grey, but I want to make a really strong, different texture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, now I've got my tape down, I'm going to go back to my round brush, making sure you've cleaned your other brushes that you've been using, your rigger and your fan brush. And I'm going to mix up, now see, let's go with the burnt umber and white. And then I'm just going to dab this going down here. I'm going to go over the pores. Now I've got that going downwards, I'm now going to go across with my brush to give texture to that branch. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of the burnt umber and just again go across the branch. Right, so now can you see here there is a shadow. So while the tape is still down, I'm going to make a little bit of that shadow. So I'm going to add a little bit of black to my mix, and just down this right hand side I'm going to put my shadow in. Now if I lift up the tape, if you haven't pressed down too much, it should not be picking up your fur, and then replace it in another area where you want to do a branch. So I'm going to put mine down here, pick up the other side and move it onto my painting there. If you see that nice branch effect, wonderful. So we just do that again. So I'm going to paint downwards, making sure you can see what I'm doing, painting my mixture downwards. Now here on the picture we've got a bit of green going on, so I'm going to add in a lot of that green area. Then I'm going to add a little bit more of the dark brown and put in some texture going across. More of the green I think here. And then the darkness around here for the shadow. Coming down, lift up my tape, make sure I replace it in another area that I want to do. Let's go up there I think. You can use this technique all the time. It really doesn't matter. It's a very, very, very good technique. And it stops your trees looking very normal. So I'm going to put my brown across and then put my shadow down to one side. Lift up the tape. And let's do it while we can over here with this, the sloth's paw. You only need that one bit of tape, it's fine, you just carry on using it. Put my brown. Ooh, careful not to go over the leg of your sloth, but that's okay because I can. It's acrylic and I can go back over it again. Let's put this one more in darkness here. Lift up my tape now. I'm going to put it down on the table for a minute so I can see where I'm going to be putting it next, just so that I can have a look. Okay, so I'm going to put the tape now here. Oh dear, it's got caught up against itself. As I say, it's a very fiddly thing to do. Let's just move that down a little bit more. There we go. And on this side, okay, let's bring down this branch. Add a little bit more white if I want to, because I think that needs to be a little bit more white. Okay. Go across with my brown, giving texture to the branch. Sorry if I'm repeating myself, but sometimes it helps you to remember what I'm doing, or if you missed it because someone was talking. So this is the dark shadow bit going down the edge. And I lift up my tape. Now I can put that tape down, and in fact I will, a little bit further over the fur. So I'm going to make that branch a little bit thicker. Like that. And see our trees come into fruition. Again, this one's going to be a little bit more greeny. Just work your way around, or you can just paint them as normal, but I just thought it'd be nice to show you this easy peasy treesy painting technique. So I'm going to put the brown bit in first, a little bit of the green, and my brown bits. And the shadow. Let's bring it down here. Oops. Well done if you're still hanging in there with me. And I've lost my tape again now, so I'm going to have to just use another one. Let's redo some tape because it's all stuck to me. we're nearly done. We're nearly done. So 100 brownie points. Go and give yourself a treat when you finish this, because you stuck in there to do your sloth. Okay, let's try that again. So put the brown in. And I'm going to put that bit up there without the tape on this one, because I'm just going to be a little bit more careful. And then join it into here. Add in green. And add in my shadow. Lifting the tape up. And I didn't put my brown bits going across, so I'll do it from this side, not going across all the way. Now you will probably be focusing a lot harder on your painting than I will, because I'm trying to teach you at the same time. Multi-talented, hey? So let's put this across there, put that colour down. Add the green, add the shadow, and add the brown from one side, just to get that tree texture. If I take the tape off now, I can now correct areas where I've got white bits. So I'm going to go back into the brown here. I want this to be in front of this branch here. So I'm just going to put that darkness in very carefully, so it goes over that green of the background. And I'll do the same over here. And here. And up here. Now this branch comes down here and it goes down. Now I've got a little bit carried away here. Just need to make one branch look like the same branch behind it. There you go. It does help if it's got a bit of a fluid. So I've just added a little bit of water to my brush, no paint, and I can go over that dry brush. Perfect. So let's see what's going on here. Let's go back to my rigger and add some more fur. To make up that white space there, and to make up this white space here. Okay, and to make up this bit here too. Actually, for that one I think I'm going to put more tree. gently bringing in what we use for the technique. This is if you didn't use the tape, you would do exactly the same thing. And then we've got, let's put a bit of black here, separate these branches also. And it's to join them together because he's hanging on them. Okay, so down here I'm going to add a little bit of the green to get rid of this white. There we go. Just touching up the white bits. And we're nearly there, we're nearly there. Okay, let's put some fur here. So when we put his claws in, it'll look okay. And we missed a bit of branch going on here, so we'll just put that in. Branch is hanging on. And hopefully that looks like it's still the same branch. A little bit of shadow here to put this branch in front of the other one. Yay! And then all we're left to do is the eyes. Give yourself a pat on the back. Do you want another fun fact? Let's give you another fun fact. So, number 6, looking at you, sloths have an extra vertebrae at the base of their neck that allows them to turn their head onto a 270-degree axis. Excuse me. This enables them to obtain an almost 360-degree view of their surroundings, which proves to be a highly beneficial defensive mechanism. This unique feature makes sloths stand out from other mammals whose bone structures do not allow this flexibility. Okay, now let's go back to our sloth and do our eyes. Okay, so I would like to look at the eyes, and the eyes are, I would say, a nice burnt umber brown. I'm using my rigger brush to paint in a nice solid brown. Now that brown also goes around the eyes. Oh look, he's looking at you. And this can go down here. And the eyes is where you can give it character as well, so now I'm going to add a bit of black. I should be able to lean on my painting now because it's dry, because acrylic dries really fast. Just always look back at the reference photo of what you can see. Take in a little bit more brown. Put in this fur from the eye coming down. Peekaboo, he's peeking out behind. Hey, hello, Sloth. Now I'm leaving a bit of white on the paper, but you don't have to, because with acrylic you can go right the way over the top of it again. So let's put a little bit more black in this area just around here. And here. A little bit brown. I'm loving my sloth. So the final bit. I've got white there, but if you've gone over and not left any white, then you can put in some little bit of white highlight into your eyes. And just where it touches the bottom lower lid, because that shows that your eyes are moist. You have a film of layer of moistness there, and I'm going to put a little bit more highlight there for his nostril, and a little bit of a dottiness across the top of his nose there, and there is my sloth. Now I must just finish by saying the rest of my notes. So we have doing the length. Although sloths have long claws, they make walking on land difficult. They can move up to 3 times faster when they swim. I didn't know they could swim. Surprisingly, for such a typically slow-moving character, they can also hold their breath for an impressive 40 minutes, suppressing their metabolism to make their heart rate a third of its normal speed. And then it also says taking it slow. Well, we have taken it slow. We've taken an hour and 3/4 to do this tutorial, but I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, check back next Monday, and we can do another painting. If you put in the comments what you would like to, like a suggestion of what you'd like me to paint and show you how to paint, I'm all for suggestions. But I will also be doing other things with my YouTube channel and Facebook Live. So these boxes behind you, I'm going to do a studio challenge. So I will get people to point at a box, and I have to make something out of what's in the box and tell you about it. So let's see. Taking it slow. The sloth's nature allows it to conserve energy, moving slower than any other mammal on the planet. This modest pace means that sloths generally travel no more than 125 feet, that's 38 meters, in a single day, and on rare occasion they will find themselves at level ground. They crawl only 1 foot, 30 centimeters, per minute. Beauty sleep. The Greek goddess Ergia was an ancient personification of a sloth and was known to sleep often. The sleeping pattern of a modern-day sloth is dependent on its habitat, with sloths in captivity sleeping up to 15 to 20 hours a day. That's a lot. While sloths in the wild sleep as much as humans at around 8 to 9 hours a day. And the last one that it gives is number 10, a photo smile. The facial structure of a sloth gives the appearance that it is constantly smiling, even if it is experiencing pain, stress, or anxiety. That's what we have to do in this time. When sloths are used as a photo prop for wildlife selfies, tourists may accidentally confuse this feature for happiness or contentment. I really hope you've enjoyed painting along this sloth with me, and you've hung in there right to the very end if you're reading this. So thank you. I've enjoyed painting with you. I've enjoyed painting this sloth. Please feel free to check on my Facebook page, Mary Deaville Artist, for any other things that I've been teaching, which had inspiration there of what to fill your blank paper with. There's many photos on there and many posts, not videos yet, but many posts to show you what people have been painting throughout my teaching. Please check out my YouTube channel, and if you like what I do, press the subscribe button. I need to bring up a following so that my YouTube channels and these videos can get far and wide. So it's very helpful if you can just click the subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything, so it may sound like you're going to pay for something, but you're not. So embrace this technology. Click subscribe. All it will do is remind you when I've got another post that's been videoed and uploaded onto YouTube. Watch out for my other Facebook live things. Thank you all so much for joining me. I have no idea who's been watching, but I really hope you've enjoyed it. Hello, hang around with your sloth. Thank you, and goodbye.